Insurance companies are being accused of abandoning homeowners in flooded towns in central West New South Wales. Local mayors are also concerned about the viability of their communities as property values are at risk of falling.
So we have a great lifestyle out here. And of course, our lake is part of the lifestyle. We ski all through summer. We've got the river where you can go fishing and things. We've got great education, great health services. And now for this kind of thing to happen, I'm not going to allow it to stop any of that growth that we're getting.
Joining me live is Nationals member for Riverina, Michael McCormack. Thanks for your time, of course. Your area has been pretty hard hit, in particular Forbes. How's everything holding up and the people holding up?
Well, a word of advice, I wouldn't suggest that any insurance company take on Phyllis Miller. She is one of the fiercest advocates for her communities as a mayor right throughout Australia, and I've spoken to Phyllis this morning. I've also taken the opportunity to speak to insurance people such as George Karakanikis, Andrew Hall. Look,
what are they telling you?
Well, what they're telling me is the situation is dire. They understand that. Of course, there has been a line put under insurance policies, people requesting insurance. It's a little bit like, I suppose, if you've got a dodgy knee and you can't just sign up to a health insurance and then get immediate help for that dodgy knee. There is a waiting period. And look, I'm sure the insurance companies assured me that once the clean-up is very much underway and we're a week or two's time, they'll be certainly making sure that every assistance is given as far as new policies activated, old policies reactivated and help given. Now,
they're a business.
They are indeed.
They're giving you assurances, but they have to give you a premium based on the risk. If the risk is getting higher, if they feel like these are repeat floods and these are warnings, people will pay more for a premium. That's not a personal thing. You know, it's great to beat up on an insurance
They have to come on board. Look, and it is. And I don't want to beat up on insurance companies. Right? I don't want to beat up on insurance companies. I think it highlights a number of things. And I appreciate the Prime Minister's in Eugara today with the Premier. And I understand they know the gravity of the situation. I think the insurance companies do too, and I think when the likes of Phyllis Miller and indeed people who are struggling to get insurance make enough noise about this, everybody's going to certainly act, because we can't leave these communities, absolutely. We can't just turn up for the photo opportunity and then leave them 2 weeks, 2 months down the track.
You're talking about politicians, because as I said...
I'm talking about everybody.
Well, insurance
companies
are going to do and offer... They can offer the most reasonable and maybe trim their margins a bit. That's all they can do. But they've got a responsibility to shareholders.
Well, governments probably have to look at this. I know when there was market failure with
government subsidy, because you
well,
started this
indeed. I know when there was market failure with cyclones in Queensland, particularly strata tidal developments and the like, we as a government came in and did what we could to help that.
Is that working yet? The initial data suggests it's been pretty patchy in terms of what it's actually done to bring
At least it's in place. And I think we need to now look at a whole host of factors. Building on floodplains. I think we need to raise Wyangla Dam Wall by 10 metres to 95 metres. $2 billion outlay. It's an investment. It's not a cost. And how much is this going to save in the future? How much is it going to reduce premiums for insurance in the future?
So don't just have it on a business, broaden the business case.
Well, you can get bureaucrats in Sydney to tell you anything. The real people who are feeling this are out in the ground.
There are a lot of
out in Forbes who are now sick of getting flooded 8 times in the last 12 years.
So, OK, so the dam's one thing you mentioned, higher land, rebuilding better, stilts, whatever it might be, a lot of different measures which might help.
Government looking at what they can do as far as the insurance.
This is all going to mean a lot of government money, isn't it?
It is, and look, I appreciate we're in debt at the moment, but you know, regional Australia carried this nation through COVID. Resources and agriculture. That area of the central west of New South Wales is agricultural rich. It's resource rich, and we need to do everything we can to make sure that we support this community during their darkest days, to lift them up so that they can continue to help carry this nation like all the other rural communities have during recent disasters.
La Nina clearly a factor. Are you worried as well we're getting a taste of climate change in the region?
Oh, indeed. Absolutely, indeed. And we need to make sure that we do everything we can to make these communities more climate resilient. We need to do everything we can to help these people who have supported our nation through many previous and recent calamities.
Is it a reminder to some of your colleagues? Because it's been a divisive issue in the Nats.
Well, we signed up to net zero.
Sure, but it wasn't all smiles and sunshine at the time, was it?
Well, we also need to make sure.
Sort of what can we extract?
We also
from
need to make sure that we
this?
don't, kill the golden goose that lays the golden eggs.
Sure, I understand that, but I'm just saying around priority at the time, it seemed to be quite a few of your colleagues were, we don't really want to do this. Let's see what price we can get out of it. This is a reminder.
We made a responsible, practical decision to get on board because our farmers need the trade.
That was hardly the entire content of the party room conversation.
I could go through the whole content of the party room discussion, but I wouldn't because it's the party room discussion. But there's a whole host of factors in this, and that took hours, if not, just a series of several meetings. But we got to where we needed to get because we are a responsible party.
Okay.
We put regional and rural people first, always.
Just finally,
whether they're being affected by floods or whether they need good policies going forward for the future, the Nationals will always look after the regions best.
Just finally, revealed in 9 newspapers this week, you pushed back at, I guess, coaching from the Prime Minister's office.
There was no coaching. I didn't like that, the use of that word. I was absolutely...
On some free advice on how to obfuscate to the media.
No.
Well,
obfuscate is not the... What happened was the Prime Minister was going to Hawaii, for the viewers who are unaware of what the intro needed to be here.
You start the question and then I'll see if I want to correct it.
Well, the Prime Minister was going overseas. I was going to be acting Prime Minister and a discussion took place because I was obviously going to be having a security detail on me, which I don't normally have. The discussion came up as to what would happen in the event that I was going to do media, and it was put to me that, well, you're out in rural Australia, but the moment you do anything in rural Australia, the moment you get asked a question by the Galag and Bone Gazette reporter who might say to you, Mr McCormack, such, it becomes national news, particularly when you've got a phalanx of security on you.
Let me just inject the question part of that is because they were running through whether you'd actually, or how you might avoid saying, I'm acting Prime Minister.
Indeed.
And you basically said, thanks, but no thanks for the coaching.
I will say I'm acting Prime Minister because the Prime Minister is overseas.
Let me ask you this, though. Do you regret not just going back to normal arrangements and saying, I don't even want to play this song and dance, let's put out a media release?
Well, that wasn't my call to make. I was going to be there. No, I don't think I ever had that discussion. Well, look, I was going to become acting Prime Minister. The Prime Minister's office will always do what the Prime Minister's office, and it doesn't matter whether it's Albanese,
when you're
Morrison,
getting told
Turnbull,
this, which is clearly a tactic to pull the wool over the eyes of the media or whomever else.
Not at all.
Well, to not actually give the real answer.
Well, the other thing too is the Prime Minister was entitled to a holiday. It had been a very, very hard year. We'd had we'd had bushfires a little earlier. They'd actually tended to calm down. It was probably an appropriate time to go away, and he chose to go overseas. Now, I'm not about to say, oh, well, he's in X spot or Y spot, because that's a security leader.
Not what I was asking now. It's just about whether, in hindsight, you'd say, look, let's just put out a release saying I'm acting Prime Minister.
That was up to the Prime Minister's office, and I'm more than comfortable with the role I played, and when asked, I gave honest answers, as I always do.
And that's why we get you on the program.
Indeed, Tom, and I enjoy being on your program.
Thank you.